Hello, and welcome to the review of Champions. I'm your host, Grandmaster. 10 years ago, 10 years, yes, we're getting old, the second movie in Phase 3 introduced a new hero, Doctor Strange. The movie, directed by Scott Derrickson, gave us Stephen Strange, an arrogant doctor, or an arrogant person, I should say, who has to deal with a major setback that changes him to start fighting for others instead of himself. If that sounds familiar, it's the exact plot of Iron Man. Benedict Cumberbatch, and that's the last time I will say this guy's name today, stars, but has an excellent support cast. Chiwetel Ejiofor, also last time I say that name, Rachel McAdams, Benedict Wong, Tilda Swinton, Mads Mikkelsen, and Benjamin Bratt complete an excellent cast. And despite my jab at the movie, it is an excellent superhero origin movie. The score is by Michael Giacchino, and you can hear that because the main theme is a lot like his Star Trek theme. Yeah, Star Trek, shout out. Doctor Strange, he became an MCU favorite character. Unfortunately, Scott Derrickson left the MCU after this movie, despite him being named the director for the sequel at first, but he was replaced by Sam Raimi. The movie itself was a financial and critical success. So there's lots to talk about Doctor Strange. Like I said, the second movie in the Phase 3 of the MCU, the Infinity Saga. But I need to introduce my fellow champions first. Voice only, we have Lokismom. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
We have the original, Mr. Taylor first. How are you?
I am spectacular.
Spectacular Strange?
Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. You're a little bit too soon for that. And yeah, guys, you may not believe this, but he's back. He's back. I don't know for how long, but we will enjoy it while he is here. He's Arararchstanton or Archie. How have you been, man?
I've been good. I've had a lot going on, which I'm sure I'll catch up with you guys on. But I'm really glad to be able to talk to you guys. I really am. So I didn't even do any prep. I love this movie already. So I'm just gonna go with it, and it's good to see you guys. It really is.
Yeah, well, you've probably seen it once or twice in your life, so you can go in your memory, right? Yeah, I also didn't rewatch it, but let's talk about it. Well, while I'll have you, Doctor Strange, when you first saw it in theaters, what did you think of it? Arch?
Yeah, no. I what did I think of it originally? So it was honestly, my first thought of it is it was pretty concise. It got to where it was going pretty quickly, right? It didn't take a long time to build up into it, and it just kind of hit what it was going to hit. And I thought at the time it was a really different thing for them to do. They really wanted to dig into like the magic side of it, and it worked, right? It felt big, and it felt different than a lot of the earthly heroes that they had, and it had its own vibe going. It really did. Like I think what really got me into it was the trailers and the kind of trippy, surreal sort of music and a lot of the imagery, and it all of that really worked as a sort of trippy, otherworldly vibe, and I was really excited by it.
Loki's mom. I actually insisted on seeing this movie in 3D when it came out because of all the effects it has. And it was kind of a trip, especially when Strange meets the Ancient One and she pushes him out of reality. A great scene, by the way. What did you think of that? Did you watch it in 3D or just 2D in a theater?
No, I had to stick with the 2D. I have astigmatism, so my eyes aren't exactly balanced. So particularly whenever you watch a 3D, one eye is going to be a little out of focus.
Okay, that's
But no,
unfortunate.
I did watch it in the movies, and was stoked about it because when I first heard that Benedict Cumberbatch, which I'll say his name again, um, I thought, well, that was perfect casting. They couldn't have done better with as far as matching the actor up with the character, which Marvel's always really good at. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I say, it was trippy. The special effects were different and new, and of course the cast was just fantastic and wonderful. And I don't have too many complaints about this movie. I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great. Taylor, you saw it in the theaters as well, I guess. Scott Derrickson directing. He is known for the horror genre mostly. What did you think of his job with this movie?
It was great. First time
Yeah.
I saw it, was blown away. Loved it. You mentioned that it has the same plot as Iron Man. Well, many movies have the same plot. Okay,
Yeah.
there's plot and there's story. Some people think that's the same thing, but it's not. Okay, plot is like one or two sentences. Boy meets
Mhm.
girl, girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. Okay, that's plot. The
Mhm.
story is, who are they? How do they meet? How does he lose her? How does he get her back? Who separated them? Was it by force? The whole
Mhm.
script is the story. All right.
Mhm.
So yes, the plot is identical to Iron Man, but it's a completely different story. And if you ever had any question about how different two stories with the same plot can be, look at Iron Man and look at Doctor Strange, because Iron Man is, very mechanical, scientific, grounded, whereas this, like you said, trippy, magic, fantastical, off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah, I was of course kidding. I mean,
I know that.
I love both movies equally. Maybe I love Doctor Strange even a little bit more because of the magic and the trippy, and of course Pink Floyd, but that's a different story. But yeah, I love Doctor Strange. Did you have any criticism at all of this movie, Taylor?
Well, overall, the casting is great. I understand that Vincent Price was dead, so they had to settle for Benedict Cumberbatch to play Doctor Strange. But I can live with that. No, I don't have any complaints at all.
Yeah, me neither. Actually, I actually come to think of it, Arch. I cannot say anything negative about this movie. It's well, like you said, it's concise, it's fast paced, and they don't beat around the bush. There's no dead scenes where you can just if they scrap that one scene, nothing changes about the movie or it doesn't have any impact in the movie. It's actually fast paced and it's direct and it gets where it needs to go and in an understanding way. I mean, there's nothing like, oh, what's going on here? So I think Scott Derrickson did a great job
I
writing
agree.
and
Yeah, I agree. It's a very concise movie. It's very well constructed, and everything fits very well. It's sort of a character study of this man, this brilliant man who loses
mm,
everything, goes to hell, pushes his girlfriend away, goes seeking answers, and finds them in the strangest place possible, and becomes a superhero as a result. And it all happens in a concise, like y'all said, concise amount of time. Nothing is wasted. No wasted scenes, no extra stuff. Everything leads to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. It's all connected.
mhm. Arch, that city bending scene, I loved it.
No, of course, no. That's probably it's almost the climax of the movie, right? Like that's really where it kind of goes off the page. Like you'd seen things like the out of body experience, and you'd seen some other magical elements, but at that point, they really take it to another level, and it works. I think it really works, especially in getting you to the villain at the end. Like you kind of accept the idea that there's different planes of reality and that you can enter in from them, and not just in like the alternate timeline sort of idea that other shows have done since then. Like it literally feels like you're watching some sort of layered reality, and they present that really well.
Yeah. And of course, it leads up to the death of the Ancient One, which actually, when they are standing there, both out of their bodies, watching the snowfall and talking, is actually one of my favorite scenes in the MCU. Actually, where the Ancient One teaches Stephen Strange one final lesson: "It's not about you." And I think that's a very strong scene. Do you agree?
No, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one thing I always pay attention to when I'm watching that scene, and this is, I love that I didn't prep because you're just bringing this all back to me, is like watching that scene. I'm always looking at not the actors, but everything going on around them because they slow everything down. So you can see everything going on around them is just barely moving, and it just reminds me of like it reminds me of the idea of like in real life, the concept that like your life flashes before your eyes, or people talk about how if you have like a sort of like a near death experience, things might seem to go really slowly, and you really feel that. You really feel like, wow, this is sort of last couple of seconds, and she's
Yeah.
using them to impart this idea. I thought it was really strong.
Yeah, it deals also with the concept that you can experience the same amount of time at a different pace. I mean, uh, when you're at work for something and you have like a quiet day, a day can last very long, and when you're very busy, it's very short, and in the same amount of time, but you experience it differently. Which I like that they put that in there.
No, no, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
It really does
yeah,
work. It feels very
yeah.
final for her, but it feels very poignant, and it really makes the point of the film in a really strong way right before you hit the final battle sort of aspects. It was really
Yeah,
good in for her character.
yeah. Can you find any criticisms of this movie? Taylor and I can't, but maybe you.
Not really, and you guys know I've always been extremely high on the Infinity arc in general. I just really don't. When you were talking about though, it's not a criticism, but the one thing that I kept thinking about as a what if is I remember this film when it first came out. There were a lot of wait, when is in the timeline does this fit? Like, is this further back and this whole he's going to the far east to find himself thing is taking place over a longer period of time or not, and it turns out it really wasn't. It was a fairly brief period of time, but it kind of makes me wonder if they had how your perception of it might be if they had said it in back 10 years prior to that, and this was all taking place pre Iron Man for the most part, which it wasn't, but that's not a criticism in any sort of way. It's just always something that does make me wonder about it.
Yeah, and later, of course, we learn in Endgame that when the Battle of New York is taking place, Stephen Strange is still a surgeon in the hospital in New York where he's working. So it actually fits timeline wise exactly at that moment. Uh, Loki's mom. Um, that final battle. It's a very smart way to do things. It's a little bit different. Like instead of like a big beam in the sky or like a crazy effect battle, it's basically a bargain between Stephen Strange and Dormammu, which is also voiced, by the way, by the actor that I will not name again because I can't pronounce his name. Benedict Cumberbatch, I think it is. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was like you say, rather than just having the same pyrotechnics, and the villain is destroyed. Um, it becomes a psychological game where he's just gonna wear him down. I got all the time in the world. We'll just keep doing this over and over. And while he's doing that, the Strange's rationale is, well, then how do you say his name?
Dormammu.
Mamu. Yeah, something like that. Mama Mamu. He's not able to destroy Hong Kong and the rest of the world or whatever. And yeah, I did like how that, particularly that scene right before he goes into that meet the big purple guy, where everything's just stopped on the street, and and then they reverse everything, and because he has the time at that point, I guess the green force, which I guess is the time force, he's able to control time, and of course that foreshadows his upcoming when he teams up again with Spider Man. How it gets out of hand at that point, but anyway, yeah, uh, well done. I thought all the uh, action scenes, the big fights and whatever was just different. Another thing, they also said a lot of the action in the hospital. Since he's a doctor, that was his world. So it kept going back to that particular hospital, and of course the pivotal scene with the ancient one that Arch was speaking about. Um, yeah, very inventive. I didn't really realize that it was the same plot as Iron Man, but Taylor's absolutely right. That's just the frame of the story of the narrative, and we could probably sit down and think about it for a few minutes and come up with a dozen other movies that have the same plot and then don't involve superheroes or comic book characters or anything like that. It's just a normal prosaic telling of a hero's story or a hero's journey. And
Mhm.
yeah, like he's very similar. Strange is very similar to Tony Stark, ego wise. He's the greatest. But unlike Tony, Doctor Strange is not a playboy. I mean, I don't think he even has time for sex, and he sort of says that to poor Rachel long suffering Rachel McAdams. She's Christine. He just that was such a horrible scene where he just tells her off right there before he leaves to go to Kathmandu, and she's just that was so well played. But he's just so cold and self-centered and at that point, and so his journey from being that person to being um, a superhero is very similar to Tony's, and yet I think the character development is different, and of course all the everything put into it. The only big criticism I would have of this film is that the opening sequence with the Ancient One and Mads Mikkelsen's crew is too similar to Christopher Nolan's, I think, Inception. It was that movie. I think it had came out before that, and so it's very similar. That fractal bending the buildings and one. So I think that had already been done. But considering they're in New York, and this is where the action is going to start. I guess it was okay, but still well done, beautifully done, and uh, yeah, that's about the only criticism I have of it. Otherwise, I loved Tilda Swindon, I believe is her name, as the Ancient One. I thought that was a bold choice to
Yeah. Now that you
not
mention it,
that yeah, not to have the comic book character per se, but to have someone a little bit different. And I always wonder what her backstory was like. Was she like maybe a Celtic shaman back in like a couple thousand years ago, and somehow she worked her way. I think she would have a very interesting story um, on her own if they would ever would do that. But of course,
Mhm.
hopefully with a younger actress. But even so, I think her journey to becoming the Ancient One would be a very good movie.
Yeah, or a Disney Plus TV series.
Absolutely, yeah,
Now
very
that I
much.
mention it, they're probably going to do it. But anyway, now, I'm glad you mentioned Tilda Swinton's Ancient One. From what you're saying, I don't think you have a problem with the gender and race swap, but there was some criticism about that. Actually, the movie takes a little bit of takes a little jab on this criticism because in the movie, Arch, if you can remember, Stephen Strange first thinks the old Asian guy is the Ancient One, but it turns out it's the Tilda Swinton character. So, how did you see that when the movie came out? Were you upset by that? Because it's not like the comics at all, of course.
No, well, I wasn't. Now, these things can kind of play out a couple of different ways. It's different to me. It is different to me. I don't know if this is fair or not, but it's different to me if I do have like more of a deep attachment to the character, or if it's a much more prominent character. I think it's different. I don't put the Ancient One in either of those buckets, so
Mhm.
it doesn't really have any impact on me. But I can't think of another one that they've sort of done something similar to, that would uh, kind of be problematic for me. Not right off the top of my head. I'm sure we could probably come up with one,
But
but it didn't.
besides being problematic or not, Tilda Swinton they did a great job
No, she was
portraying
awesome.
this character.
She was really awesome, and I really relate. Well, I don't know about relate, but at least I really she did a great job, right? So like I felt what she was trying to convey, and the way she presented the character. So she 100% worked.
Yeah, Taylor, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, like Arch said, it's really not a significant character. It's not a big deal if they changed it from the comics. And like you said, Tilda Swinton did a great job.
No, I agree, and I wish people would lighten up about this kind of thing. Okay. You know what? Let's do a rating for Doctor Strange. I'll start with you, Arch. I will not ask you to rate the whole MCU up until this point. You can just do Doctor Strange.
I have no idea. I hadn't thought of anything clever.
And I know you always have trouble with ratings. Well, I can just say, was it superb, good, mid, meh, or just plain bad for you?
No, it was. I won't try to come up with anything clever, but it was virtually as good as they were going to get it. Could I imagine something that was different in an even that worked even more? Maybe. So maybe it's not like this. Maybe it's not the super best version that it could possibly have ever been, but it's as good as I would have ever expected, and probably and way better than that. So it's solid. It's prime.
Okay. Lokismom?
Yeah, like I say, I don't have too many demerits off of this film, and I'm going to give it a 8.5.
Okay, that's fair. Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important aspects of the movie, of course, is how it fits into the MCU as a whole. And this was at a time when the MCU was very focused on building up to Infinity War. So, of course, it introduces the Time Stone. But now, before this, we had magic, because Asgardians kind of have magic. But that's sort of a science fiction magic, because they're aliens, and Thor says on Asgard, science and magic are one and the same. This is kind of the moment where, and it's almost like when he has his accident, he has that watch that his girlfriend gave him that gets broken at the exact time that his life gets destroyed. And it's almost the point where his life based on science ends, and he starts moving into a life based on magic. And it's sort of where the MCU expands from just being grounded science, technological science fiction, and more magical as well. So I think they did a good job again of just tying the whole Infinity Saga together, and this is a good example. This movie is a good example. Taking that and everything else we've talked about, Mads Mikkelsen and everyone else, 9 out of 10. Took me a while to get there, but yes, 9 out of 10.
That's fine. I mean, that's usually a good thing if it takes you a while to get there. Okay, I'm gonna give this movie a 10 out of 10, and I will tell you why. This movie was my dad's favorite MCU film, and I can't take any points away from that because of that. It's simple as that. So, for other reasons than it just being a great, great, great superhero movie,
Right.
I give it a 10 out of 10 to honor my father. So, yeah, there's nothing anyone can say about that, right?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
Works for me.
That will end our discussion today. And I have nothing left to do than to make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And join our forum at sucar.freeforms.net. Just click on the link in the description and it will get you to the setup an account page. Next time, we will find out who the daddy really is. For now, I wish you all to be safe and be well. This is Grandmaster signing off, also on behalf of my fellow champions. Bye.